Okay, so my name is Sarah Smith Chris, and I am making a video about H. Holmes, or Henry Howard Holmes. He was known as America's first documented serial killer. I have prepared what is essentially a slideshow in this video to share with you. My voice is behind the slideshow to explain what the slideshow is, the pieces and everything. So, enjoy! The headlines. H. Holmes was born as Herman Webster Mudgett on May 16, 1861. He died on May 7, 1896. He was better known as Henry Howard Holmes, or Dr. Henry Howard Holmes. He was the first documented serial killer in the United States, and he confessed to 27 murders, but may have killed as many as 200 people. He brought an unknown number of victims to his murder castle. He was married 3 times to 3 different women, but never divorced. He created the murder castle with its many torture chambers, and after conviction, he was sentenced to death and was hung for his crimes. In his early life, he was bullied as a child. One such bullying incident included him being taken to a doctor's office, where the bullies forced him to stand face-to-face with a skeleton, and they put the skeletal hands on his face. Later, he remembered feelings of being scared and then fascinated, and he believed that this is how he became obsessed with death and eventually began dissecting animals. He attended the University of Michigan's Department of Medicine and Surgery, where he graduated in June 1884. During his time there, he stole cadavers and conned insurance companies during his enrollment. His con was simple. He claimed the bodies had been involved in accidents, wrote out his insurance information, and collected the insurance money. The murder castle. It was 162 feet long, 5 feet wide. The address covered 3 addresses, 601 to 603 West 63rd Street. It was called the World's Fair Hotel. Holmes constantly hired and fired people so that no one other than him would know the actual layout of the building. It had rooms with doorways that opened to brick walls, oddly angled hallways, stairways leading to nowhere, and doors that could only be opened by the outside. Victims and the death rooms. The victims were mostly female employees, his lovers, and his hotel guests. And then there was Benjamin Petizel and 3 of his 5 children. The death rooms were sophisticated. He had a soundproofed bedroom with gas lines, a hanging chamber, a soundproof bank vault, and a secret room with a trapdoor in the ceiling where he left people to starve. The disposal. His disposal symbol was relatively easy. He had a trash chute and a dumbwaiter to the basement. He would send them down there, and once there, he would dissect them, strip them of flesh, and then he would craft them to skeletal models and ship them to medical schools. The rest of the parts were buried in lime pits or thrown into 2 giant furnaces. Holmes had 2 major accomplices. They were Benjamin Petizel and Charles Chappell. Benjamin Petizel was a carpenter with a criminal past. A DA once called him Holmes's tool, or his creature. He was supposed to fake his own death in exchange for a $10,000 life insurance policy. But instead, Holmes killed him and then took 3 of his children while convincing his wife that both him and his children were still alive. Holmes ended up killing 3 of them by asphyxiating them in a trunk. Charles Chappell was a man hired by Holmes to articulate 3 corpses or bodies. Holmes refused to pay him for the last body, so, in return, Charles kept the last body and cooperated with the police during the trial and investigation. Captured. Holmes was held under an outstanding warrant for horse theft. The police interviewed the former castle employees, and upon the search of the premises found the killing rooms and the basement with the discarded body parts, bloody women's clothes, and pits full of bodies and lime. H. Holmes was found guilty of the murder of Pitezel and his children. He was sentenced to death, and after being sentenced to death, he confessed to 30 murders. Some, however, were found to be still living, so it's tough to gauge how many he actually killed. Holmes was hung to death at Mayaman Singh Prison on May 7, 1896. His neck never snapped, so it took 15 minutes for him to die. He insisted on an enclosed casket, wrapped in concrete and buried 10 feet deep, so grave robbers couldn't dig him up and dissect his body. He claimed he was possessed by the devil, stating, "I was born with the devil in me. I could not help the fact that I was a murderer, nor more than a poet can help the inspiration to sing. I was born with the evil one standing as my sponsor beside the bed where I was ushered into the world, and he has been with me ever since."